Welcome to Let's Talk About It. I'm Sheena.
And I'm Tamara.
And you're listening to the dating season. This season focuses on women loving women dating, what it means, how to go about it, and all your questions answered. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this podcast.
So today we're talking about dating mistakes and what not to do so that you're as successful as possible.
Yay! I love dating mistakes, not making them personally, but hearing about them because some of them are so random.
Okay, so knowing about dating mistakes is important because it helps us know what not to do. And if we feel like we're a little bit unlucky in love and that things just never quite work out for us, we might find the reasons why here.
Absolutely. Now, before we go on, I want to preface this by saying if you're not with the right person, no matter what you do, it's not going to work out because you're not with the right person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, these are just, if you feel like you go on date after date after date and you feel like you're just not getting anywhere, it might be that either the person you're dating is making these mistakes or you're making these mistakes, so you're never progressing to the next step.
Okay, so what is the first one?
The first mistake is oversharing personal details. So, yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So, when you're getting to know someone on a date, it's best to, have a conversation. Don't let it be too one-sided.
Let the mystery that is you remain a mystery for a while.
Exactly. Think of dating as a bit of a journey. You want to take a nice slow ride. You don't want to take it all in at once. You want to, let all the wonderful scenery come by as it does so that you can actually enjoy the track, basically.
So we know the tendency is to rush things as lesbians. We want to get it done and get it done fast. Mm-hmm. Look at the Uhaul Syndrome. But don't tell your potential life partner your life story.
Yeah, you don't tell them your life story. Don't tell them about things like your mental health issues straight away. These are all important things you need to know if you're getting into a relationship with someone, just not on the first few dates.
Right. It's like those folks on social media that publish in their Twitter bio, every conceivable problem that they have in their personal lives. It's a little oversharing.
It is. And, you don't fall in love with someone's anxieties or stresses. You fall in love with the person for, all the little different things that make them them. So don't focus on the negative parts of your life. And because as we know, negativity is easy to hop on about and it's easy to focus in on. So think about stuff that is good and keep it on that track. Also, if you've got those big, terrible life events, and I'm not going to mention them because this is not supposed to be a negative podcast, don't bring them up on the first date. Again, important if you're getting into a relationship with someone, but not right now.
Okay, so the next point is don't be clingy.
Yes. Clinging only works well for peaches and film, not for people.
That would be cling film and cling peaches.
Yes.
Love it.
Okay,
so let's define being clingy. What do we mean by being clingy?
Being clingy is it's like being suffocating. Whoever watched How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days? When she tries everything she can possibly to make him leave her, and one of her tactics is always to be in his face and to be attached at the hip with him. That is being clingy. So when you feel like, you have to be with this person 24/7, you have to phone, text, DM, whatever it is, constantly, that is being clingy. No one wants to, go into a work meeting and then come back to 25 missed calls in an hour.
Oh my gosh, no. You also want to be able to do events with your friends without your brand new date tagging along.
Oh, completely. So if you're feeling that you're starting to tend towards codependency, that is being clingy.
All right, so the next point is don't expect them to fix you.
Completely. You need to be okay with yourself, and you need to know where your strengths and where your weaknesses are. But there's this saying that someone is your better half, that they complete you, and all of that, and that's rubbish. So when you're a couple, you're supposed to bolster each other, but you're not supposed to be that person's stand-in. You're not supposed to compensate for them. So don't expect that person to come along and fix you, whether it's your emotional well-being, whether it's you suck at being on time and place, so you put all of that pressure on them. Just don't do it. The other person is an individual, and so are you, and you're both in charge of your own lives.
Right. And we discovered in the relationship season that studies have shown that when you are both happy with your own selves, then the relationship is far more likely to succeed.
So people who feel like others need to fix them or they need to be in a relationship to feel whole are generally actually not ready to date. There's a lot of self-work that needs to happen. So if you feel that you're falling into this category, or you feel that the person you're dating is in this category, it might be time to put the brake on and just take a break from dating.
The next category is forgetting about yourself or compromising too much.
Again, this is letting the other person's personality and likes overshadow you. So a lot of people, especially if you have a much more submissive personality, you'll tend to defer to the other person. So, it might be, hey, what should we get to dinner? Oh, I feel like pizza. Actually, no, I don't want pizza. I would prefer Chinese. So you get Chinese because they want Chinese. And then this is fine every once in a while. But if it's every single time, slowly you're going to find that you're not in a relationship. I don't know what you're in, but it's not a relationship, but there's no give and take. You're always the one that's giving. And over time, that can lead to resentment.
So there's a audiobook called, what is that audiobook called? It was about the givers and the takers and the whatever.
It's called Burnout, and it's more about men and women, but I do think that it actually extends past men and women. So the authors talk about human beings versus human givers, and women usually fall into being human givers. So society has taught us to always give. So whatever it is, we need to give, and usually that's in response to men who are brought up to be human beings, who expect others to cater to them. But I do think there are definitely, when you get two women in a relationship or two men in a relationship, you do get people who fall into the other category, even if they are the other gender.
Absolutely. Thank you for being an awesome listener and supporting Tilt, the channel that brings you all the podcasts you want to hear. You're listening to Tilt. Find more podcasts on thelesbiantalkshow.com. All right, what is the next one?
Okay, so the next one is worrying about the future. So what is your end game with dating? Is it because you want to be in a relationship? Is it just because you want to have sex? Is it just because you want to go get out there and meet people? Especially if you're one of those people who wants to be in a relationship, worrying about the future can be a problem early on in the dating cycle. So you need to remember to not do that, because it can actually impact on the success of the dating and of the relationship ultimately, because you're putting way too much pressure on this person and yourself right at the beginning. So you might have just met this person, you're going on a first date, and you're already talking about, what kind of wedding would you like, where would you like to ultimately settle down, how many children, what do you want to call your children, all of that kind of a thing. Again, dating is a journey. Let it take time to develop.
Because ultimately each stage of the journey is fun in its own right and an important part of developing that relationship. So if you just sit back and enjoy the ride, It can be a very pleasurable experience.
And I think with this, another thing is when you're first dating and like it's not yet a relationship where you haven't decided to exclusively date each other, worrying about if the other person is dating other people and that kind of a thing, if you haven't had a conversation about it, is also dangerous because not only are you worrying about a future, you're also starting to be clingy, you're starting to become obsessive. So make sure that not only do you understand where you are at and what you want out of this relationship or dating, that you keep mindful of where the other person is at and make sure that you pace yourself.
I think that's a really valid point. I think open communication at all points during the dating space is important because otherwise you start assuming where that other person is, and that can actually lead to jarring realizations for both of you. So the next point is listening to other people too much.
This is one of those points that actually has a lot more impact on you than you think it does, because if you're listening to what others think of you and your relationships, you can start making mistakes that you wouldn't normally have. So if you're letting your friends' opinions on the person you're dating, overshadow what you think, it could impact the way you treat the person, it could impact your next move. So remember, this is when you're dating someone, it's between you and that person. Your friends and family have nothing to do with it. It might be silly things like you have a friend who doesn't like blondes, right? And you're dating a blonde, and then that person's thing against blondes starts to impact you. And you start to actually, I'm not that into blondes. Every time I've had a blonde relationship, it never goes well. So don't let other people have too much say in your relationship.
The next one is a problem that lesbians experience very often, and it's the Uhaul Syndrome.
I think it's probably one of the biggest mistakes that lesbians fall into. And the problem with the U-hauling is that it's not even just a trope. It's a fact. Lesbians do this. They move in together very fast. And the problem with this is that you're getting together and forming a relationship, moving in with each other when you're in the early honeymoon stages of a relationship. So you're high on all those good hormones, all those things that make you feel amazing and wonderful. You're not actually dealing with the realities of the person. The problem with this is that you're getting involved in the relationship that doesn't have any legs. It's usually purely physical.
The honeymoon phase of a relationship is easy. It's easy to be tricked during that relationship phase into thinking this is forever, she's the one, she's perfect, look how amazing she is. The thing is, though, moving in together too fast can actually damage your relationship because it will crash the honeymoon phase probably sooner than you should.
It accelerates the whole relationship a lot, and the problem with it is that, okay, so you break up with this person, and then the next date you go on, you fall madly in love again, and you U-haul again. So what happens is you get into the cycle of these fast relationships which are always disappointing. So it has just not just the effect on your dating life, it has an effect eventually on your confidence, on your ability to think that you're actually able to be in a relationship. And it's actually got nothing to do with that. It's that you're not thinking clearly about whether this relationship should be moving to that point. So again, slow down, enjoy the journey, and maybe sell the U-Haul.
So there is a relationship, like a cycle that you go through in your relationship to get past the honeymoon phase and into the long-term phase. There's an unpleasant in-between cycle, and then the U-hauling hurries up the cycle and makes it an unnatural thing, which means you're more likely to want to break up.
Yes.
Okay, now you want to talk about your favorite pastime, baby.
Okay. And then the last mistake is good old-fashioned stalking. We're talking about two types of stalking here, and it starts off with cyber stalking. So on Facebook, Instagram, other social media. And I think everyone does a little bit of that, especially at the beginning when you're getting to know someone. You know, you want to make sure that they're not an ex-murderer and say who they actually are, right? The problem is that over stalking on social media can result in problems when you're dating someone. It can ramp up obsession because you're monitoring where this person is at. You can monitor who they're with, which will also create that clinginess eventually. So stalking on social media is something that you really need to be aware of, and it's something that if you can, just keep away from it. Remember, they're an individual and they're allowed to have friends, and they're allowed to be friends with other women as well. Not everyone that they've picturing themselves with on social media is a potential competition for you.
Stalking is a nasty, nasty thing to do to somebody. It ruins trust in a relationship. It's creepy too.
No, it is. And the thing is, like, I think it starts off so innocently, and very soon you have all this information about this person that they haven't actually revealed themselves to you. So you know that they spent yesterday with their mother at a cooking class and they didn't tell you. So, like, you bring that up. And I mean, you know, imagine someone brings up something you didn't tell them. It's a bit weird. Or you invite them out on a date and they say they can't, and then later that day you see a picture of them at a club with some beautiful woman, and you're just like, what the hell? You can't go out with me, but you're at this club with all these women. It's really unhealthy. So you don't know who those people are. They're allowed to have their own life. So I don't know, it's very unhealthy.
Also, if you're that unhappy in the relationship, you probably shouldn't be in that relationship, or you should do some self-discovery stuff yourself. It's not healthy to feel that way.
And then I think more dangerously is like when you start becoming obsessed to the point where you're checking out where this person is that it can leak into stalking this person in real life. So that again, they've told you they can't go somewhere with you. You're monitoring their social media to see where they are, and then you make sure that you're at the same location. It's dangerous. It's not healthy, and
it's illegal.
Yes, it's illegal. So, you know, make sure that you're not doing that. And if you are finding yourself doing that, maybe it's time to like stop that relationship and go to a therapist.
Yep.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be having those feelings about anybody. So you need to go figure out what's going on with you.
Yeah. So those are the biggest mistakes that can happen in dating.
So those are the 8 deadly dating mistakes. That's all for this episode. You're listening to Let's Talk About It. I'm Sheena.
And I'm Tamara. And we're wishing you luck on your next date.
Absolutely. Go out there and knock your socks off. If you enjoy this podcast, please make sure to rate us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. It helps other queer women find this show.
We love you, and we appreciate it if you share this podcast with your friends. We'd like to get as many people listening to this channel as possible, and that not only means that we're able to continue doing this, but it means that we're reaching out more people and making people more comfortable being out.
Absolutely. Queer content is important. Help us make it and help us grow.
Thank you for listening, and we will see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.